Well, hello and welcome to our session today. We're going to be looking at data management and the mass update of data and the update of territories. We'll also look at the permissions involved in setting up somebody to be able to delete his communications and documents associated with groups of contacts, persons and leads, which when no other records are needed to be kept about those individuals. This is all about data consent and data management. So as we press on, we're filling in a lot of information around the administration of Sage CRM when it comes to the management of data and how that's held within Sage CRM. And our focus here is starting to move away from, if you like, the configuration of the system when it comes to things like the orders and quotes and the currency within the system, and back into being focused on information around contacts. And so this is about the management of contacts and carrying out mass operations on those records. And we're going to be covering then what's needed to be set up to allow for mass update to take place, and how we go ahead and carry out those mass operations, whether we are a system administrator or whether we are another type of user. And this is where I introduce you to the scope of what mass operations is. We use the word mass operations to describe a set of features inside Sage CRM concerned with the management of sets of data, and we can update fields within a set of records, or we can move those records to a new territory, or in fact we can identify a set of records that we need to then purge of communications and documents. Now, this is an ability that can be given to system administrators and users who are marked as being a info manager with additional user rights. Now, we'll explain exactly the rights that are needed for those users, but you'll notice that when it comes to the mass deletion of tasks, when it comes to the mass deletion of communications and documents, it's actually only a system administrator who can do that. But let's actually start that process and see how we configure Sage CRM to allow for mass operations. To do that, we need to log on as a system administrator. You can see that I've switched over into my browser and I can now log on, and I can open up the menus and come into administration. So I'm in it. This is so far so good. Here I am in administration and going down into the system area. Now, much of what we're doing, if we're doing this as a system administrator, and we're going to be carrying out bulk operations, mass operations on this, one of the things I would strongly advise you to do is to have a look at the idea of locking all users out of the system while you're carrying out this type of maintenance task. Now, I am going to cover locking of the system in another lesson when we're looking at interactions and control of the user experience and user security. So I'm not going to say anything more about that. But here, what I need to do is to start looking then into the system behavior. And here in system behavior, if I change this, I can point out here on the center of the screen, we've got allow mass operations as my drop down. And if I just set that to be yes, and I can then save that, and it's saved neatly. So we've now enabled mass operations, and And we can now go ahead and decide whether or not we want other users other than a system administrator to be able to do this task. To do this, I need to go off to look at users. So here I'm still a system administrator. I've just clicked on the left-hand menu at the users area, and I need to go and have a look at, so search for an existing user. And here I'm going to search for a user called Susan May. And here she is. And if I look at her, she's a sales manager. And if I scroll down, we can see that we have got the possibility of starting to mark her as, all the way down, we can start to mark her as an info manager, which she is already, but I can also give her info admin data user rights. And it's very clearly it's user rights here. It's the thing that we need to set for her. So if I set her that and then move back to the top of the screen and then save, she's now a user with those rights, and that's going to open up a set of other things for her within inside her ability to use mass operations. I'm going to stick with Susan May for this, and I'm going to go and now log on as her. And so I'm going to switch over other browser session and now log on as Susan May. And here I'm going to go into looking at groups. So if I go into my groups, and I just need to look down at which group do I want to use. I think I want to use, yes, there's this. This is an import that I've carried out, and it's brought in a set of data from US and Canada. Now, it all been brought in to a particular territory when it was carried out, but on the right-hand side, you notice how I've got two buttons called Mass Update and Update Territory. So I'm looking at a group, I'm looking at these 22 leads, it happens to be leads, and this is a static group, but it could equally have been a dynamic group as well. But I'm looking at that information, it's on leads, and I'm going to be able to now click to highlight where those fields are. If I carry out an action now, I'm going to click on the update. I can start to indicate which fields I want to be able to change. Now, I've got a group of 22 records here. I can set any of these fields to whatever I need it to be. So this is, you'll see that it includes on the fields even the assigned user. So I could be using the mass update feature to be able to reallocate work to different people. But I'm going to choose now the idea of just changing some of these fields. So I've highlighted a few of these fields, and if I click continue, we'll see that that's opened up to show us the fields that I can change the values for. And this is behind the scene. It's going to be writing an update statement to the database. So it's going to be an immediate change to the database with an immediate commit. But here, notice that it's where I've changed all of this information to standardize the rating of this particular lead. I'm changing the source for where it's come from. I'm indicating the status that it's in and the type of lead that we're looking at. Now, if I save this, and you can see that you can see here that I'm being warned that I'm just about to make this blanket change to 22 records. I want to go ahead with that, so I'm going to click on my OK, and that runs immediately, making that change to all of the data within the system. There is no rollback from this point. I have okayed it, so the change is immediate and straight away. All I can do here is to click continue. If I've made those changes, table level scripts, etc., would have fired and would probably be picked up as well by escalation rules, or would be picked up by any escalation rules that which are monitoring changes to the data. But if I click now on the next item, which is update territory, we can see that I can change the allocation of territory that this record sits in. So I'm working with a group of contacts, happens to be my leads. I can then choose the territory that I want to assign things to. You can see that I'm going to push this down away from my territory as the manager happens to be Susan May. She's in the US and Canada, and give that to one of her subordinates in a lower territory. And so I can then choose to save that. And you'll notice here that I've got a little go button or a cancel button. And if I click go, straight away the button changes, and those 22 records of leads have been changed. Now that would have, if I had run that on the context of the company, it would have changed the territories for the person records as well underneath there. So that would have changed all of the entity elements in there. So the cascade of territory change has happened. So I'm going to click continue and return back to my group. What I can do now is to have a look at where else these buttons appear, because it's not just in the context of the group, but it's also within the context of advanced find. So if I switch over into the advanced find, I happen to have set up an advanced find already in the context of the person record. So if I choose to look at a person and then look at my advanced find, there you can see I've got my Seattle contacts. So I'm looking at Seattle contacts here, and you'll notice that on the right hand side of the screen I've got those two action buttons available to me, mass update and update territory. So here in this context I could do that as well, and the advanced find gives me the advantage that I can be really quite subtle in exactly what data I want to be able to change. It's not necessarily having a group that is perhaps as a result of an import, or even something that is a result of a query that somebody else has created. This is something that I have created as an advanced find, which matches perhaps some exact details, or because of the character or because of the nature of advanced finds, I can even look for data which is missing, because you can search for null data as well within an advanced find. Just reminding us of what we've looked at then is that mass operations are to allow us to make changes on groups and advanced find result sets, to be able to carry out updates of data within that principal entity, to be able to carry out a reapportioning of territory rights as well, moving blocks of data from one security territory to another security territory to control the allocation of work within an organization. And that this is something that these two tasks can be carried out by either the system administrator or by an info manager with user rights. Now notice as well, we've got this idea of the mass delete which is to do with the deletion of communications and documents. But this is a task that can only be carried out by a system administrator. So I've not been able to do it as Susan May. Here, I'd have to do that as the administrator. And if I go back into my browser session where I was logged on as the system administrator, here I can go ahead and now look at a group. And so I'm looking at the groups, and what I want to do is to jump into one of these. Here I'm looking at all the Canadian leads, and you'll see on my screen that I've got my mass update, mass delete, and update territory buttons on the right hand side. Now, this data doesn't have any historic information associated with it, but if I was in the process of starting to blank out communications because they were redundant, because that I've had no dealings with an organization for more than however many years, then I may want to remove those communications because of data privacy legislation. Then I can do that. I can click to hit my mass delete. Is not deleting the contact information. That's another process that we'll look at. But here, this is deliberately clearing out communications and documents that I can indicate. I can selectively remove that and then choose to carry out my delete. It will warn me that this is going to make an immediate change, and then choose OK, and it will tell me how many I've actually gone ahead and removed. Now, I've not, in this particular case, I've not removed any data from the system because those groups didn't have any, but it would be straight away an act of removal of the communications and document records associated with those leads. And that delete records is associated only with the leads and the person records, and it's only the system administrator who can carry out that task. So we've looked now at the idea of the mass update and the update of territories, including the deletion of communications and documents associated with personnel need records. Let's see if anyone has got any questions. So long. Goodbye. Thank you.